Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Ah, yes, c'est moi. 'Tis I, Lynn Cullen. Sometimes it's embarrassing to admit it, but I haven't done anything today that would cause me not to admit it. Check on me in an hour, and that might not be the case. So, guys, yet another eventful weekend. You are well advised to not watch news for, I would say, the next week. That's my guess. I was listening. I have satellite radio in my car on the way down here. I had it on. I was trying CNN, MSNBC. I even tried Fox. Cannot. They're all doing the same thing. And I can't. Stephen just asked me, what are you going to talk about? And I said, not about the Texas shooting. So look at, what am I doing? Can't do it. Won't do it. Been there, done it. This bears no resemblance to, it bears all resemblance to every other, I don't care. The one question I have, though, I have this one question. Now, this massacre, they're touting as the third worst mass shooting in modern American history. That's now when the guy in Las Vegas did his thing, that was the worst. That was number one, right? What the hell's number two? If this one's number three, Aurora. Who can remember? Number two is Orlando. Oh yeah, the nightclub. All right. After a while, it all just sort of melds into one big bloody killing field. I can't, it's just blood and maimed bodies. Okay, so Las Vegas 1, Orlando 2, and this little place 3. But here's the thing: they keep saying the worst mass shooting, or the third worst mass shooting in modern American history, which I've heard nobody tell me what the worst mass shooting was. It maybe we massacred an entire tribe of Native Americans? I wonder if they're even counting that. Seriously. So it would have been something that happened a long time ago if they are, fudging this with modern. Stephen's on it. If you Google what is the worst mass shooting in American history, do you get an answer? The fact that we have weaponry now that allows one person, and I'm assuming we're talking about one person creating all of this death and destruction, all by himself. I put underscore under him, because in case you haven't noticed, all the crap we talk about on this show day after day, after day after day, after day after day, is the bad behavior of men. Anyone care to disagree with that? So I'm thinking it was some we massacre. No, but that would be, how could one person? You're not coming up with anything, are you? So I'm wondering what the fudge is here. I'm wondering what they're fudging, unless they don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to know anything about this. It's just another piece of evidence of the total decline of our society. And I don't know that something as seemingly silly in comparison, but that is the attack on Senator Rand Paul at his home after getting off his riding mower by a neighbor, is sort of in the same general, I mean, obviously one's way over here and one's over here, but they're in the same bubble, which is that increasingly American men turn to violence as a way of what? Expressing their rage. I guess that would be it. Expressing their rage. That works at either end of the spectrum. And I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't know. Toxic masculinity, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, something's happening to men right now. Has been happening, and now they're acting out. And the election of Donald Trump is both a symptom of it and an exacerbator of it. And it is a sense of true grievance and rage by white men, not most white men, but maybe by white men. They've lost something. They're not particularly articulate about it, but man, they're lost. They have lost things and they feel lost. And this is, you can talk about it on the individual level, like when we try to understand a shooter, or you can talk about it on a, this sort of macro level in which an entire gender and race go nuts and gives the world Donald J. Trump. There was a piece written, I think, in Sunday's Times about this kind of thing and about how Trump has helped unleash this tsunami of toxic masculinity. And I guess maybe distance will be required if anybody's left to try to write the history. Maybe decades from now, someone will be able to look at it with the benefit of hindsight, but also of being somewhat removed, and be able to explain really what drove this spasm of unfettered, incoherent rage by men. We know that they have lost things. We know it. My God, here in Pittsburgh, we know it. White men without a college education, right, used to be able to get good jobs, great benefits, support their families, have leisure time, have a pension, have a secure retirement. That was a good time for them. It's a great time for them. It's gone. It's gone. But they're not. So white men without college educations are left behind. And you can understand their feeling of loss. But we have to somehow do something for them, I guess, that would help them make some transition if they're willing. I don't get the impression that a lot are. You see, I mean, it's really endemic. It used to be that men who loved this, strutting sense of masculinity and control and power, even if they didn't have, a highfalutin education or anything, used to be they were admired and respected, and they lived in communities in which they belonged with others, to institutions in which they also had power, their churches, their clubs, their unions. And now they're untethered, in large part. Untethered. And where maybe those churches used to constrain, in some respects, the toxicity of their sense of masculinity, the amount of that number of them that are affiliated with churches now is way, 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 way down. So they don't go anywhere where they get challenged about their reaction to the world around them. So one can see why Donald Trump was to them, wow. It was like looking in a mirror. Here's a guy like me, only he's a billionaire. But he talks like me. He thinks like me. It's like me. And you can see why they love him. But see, Trump is a man-child. And that is what he is modeling for them. A man-child. You can be the big, powerful, strong man and grab him by the pussy and all this kind of stuff. But there's none of the obligation that masculine men like that used to maybe feel a little bit more about being responsible in their use of that power. So it's power without responsibility, which is how a whole bunch of people could give the world Donald Trump. Because, of course, a vote for Trump was irresponsible. They don't see a future for them. So their sense is, if I can't have it, then I'm going to take the whole goddamn thing down. I think that's what's playing out. We hear that Donald Trump loves chaos. Well, these unmoored men who see no future, these angry, angry men who constitute his base, and their women. Let's be clear about that. They figure this system no longer works for me. I'm taking it down. And we heard over and over again, they wanted to blow it up. It ain't doing anything for me. I'm blowing it up. And that's what Trump promised him. And that's what Trump's doing. So if you're wondering why, how could people... He is channeling their sense of absolute abandonment, powerlessness, and rage. So they have power again through him. Wow. I mean, what's happened to these men are economic shifts, global, so huge, hard to blame anybody. You could blame capitalism. I mean, if you're going to blame something, blame capitalism, which defeated communism, and then is now in a relatively unfettered state in which, people don't matter. Labor, management and labor used to understand that they needed each other. Management now doesn't feel that way. If they don't like the labor pool here, they'll go someplace else. Cheaper. So these angry guys have reason for anger, but my God, their inability to understand what's happened to them. And here's the other thing I really, really find objectionable about them, even as I have a modicum of sympathy. They're whining. All they do is whine. They just sit around whining and wanting to rip things apart. Well, guys, you grow a pair. Stand up. Shake it off. Get back into the fight. Retrain yourself. Get a job. Get an education if that's what it takes. But the whimpering, the crying is really unseemly for such masculine men as you. There are jobs out there, guys. Oops, oh, I'm sorry. They're feminine kinds of jobs, so you won't take them. There are jobs. There's a lot of jobs out there, but no, you don't want to be a nurse. You don't want to work with children or elder care. You want your old damn job back, which is how Trump could go around telling people he's bringing coal mining back. He knows what they want, and he knows that they're not facing reality. He isn't so stupid about this stuff. But these guys who love him, they don't work in coal mines. Most of them never did. But they're still displaced. Sort of like refugees. It's interesting they have no empathy for others who are truly refugees. But Trump now he has ushered in this new era of despicable masculinity. Bullying is not bullying, it's being tough, telling it like it is. There's no sense of caring about anybody else. There's no empathy, right? Those are feminine. Those are feminine things. The reality is there's an awful lot of men who are not Trump-like. A lot of them. Who respect women, who are honorable. I mean, if you want the antithesis of Trump, actually, Barack Obama. Right? Can you imagine Barack Obama grabbing a woman? Can you imagine Barack Obama, a family man, married his boss, a female who was his boss? comfortable in his masculinity, not needing to act out, dignified. And so I guess it makes perfect sense that so many Americans in rage replaced that dignified, honorable man with his absolute opposite. Absolute opposite. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying any of this. I'm saying this because as a person, doesn't matter my gender, as a person living in this country or trying to, I think we're in a very bad place, and I'm not sure how we get out of it, frankly. I'm really not. But make no mistake, this whole thing is really, I think, about our sense of lost masculinity, of an order that used to be there, in which these white men were on the top of the pyramid. Now they're not as much, because in fact they are still, but not. Well, never mind. I'll just stop babbling. So what'd you give me here? Mass shootings. So once in the 60s and once but they say modern American. So that's not it. Men have killed the pilot of a jet, which made a crash. No. We're talking about, that can't be it. So why are they equivocating? Why are they saying modern? I think it's political correctness, and they're correct. I bet it has to do with some kind of a massacre of, like, Native Americans or black people. Yeah? Keep reading. The problem is that those are more than one. Okay, so there's Fort Pillow, where Confederates, including the founder of the KKK, massacred 300 surrendering black Union troops. Okay. But see, that's first of all in a war, and secondarily that's apples and oranges if you ask me. Also, it's not a single perpetrator. Why do they keep saying it? Nobody can answer that. I wish I could ask them. Hello? Why do you keep inserting modern? What the hell are you not referencing that happened way back somewhere or other? Because actually it is impossible for one person to have that high a body count without the wonderful technology we have today. Milton says, Lynn, you sound like you're channeling Hannah Rosen's 2013 book, The End of Men. I haven't read it. If you haven't, you should. Well, I know it's a tough time for men. Yeah. There was something in the business section of the New York Times today about how families, parents who are saving for their children's college education, if you look at parents who just have boys and how much they sock away for their boys, and look at parents that just have girls and how much they sock away for their girls, the girls are getting a lot less. And that figures in all kinds of ways. They said study after study after study shows that boys are given more by parents than girls. And yet the girls, I'm sorry now, are beating the crap out of the boys. There are more girls in colleges. Schools won't tell you this, but they've sort of, the admissions people have instituted sort of under the table affirmative action for boys. Because they don't want campuses 70% girl, female. Because if they did it on merit, that's what they'd get. So we got a lot of problems in this country. But this is a huge one. It really is a huge one. And I don't think we're even acknowledging it. Whatever. Okay, so how do we begin to deal with this? Here's one idea. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is an election. Tomorrow is an election day in the United States of America that very, very few Americans will bother getting off their increasingly fat asses to indulge in. That's not the right verb. And this is where Democrats lose, because it's more Democrats than anyone else. It's young people, too. This is not a sexy election. It's a bunch of judges. You don't know anything about them. It's like a referendum and ballot questions. It's school boards. But if you've learned anything in this life, it is the people in those positions who are closest to you, not the ones in Washington, the ones in your neighborhood, the ones in your school district, the ones in your city and township and county that actually have the biggest impact on your life. They set the taxes. They decide all kinds of things, curriculum. This is where Democrats absolutely refuse to do their duty. And if in this first midterm election, since Trump became president, if Democrats do not come out in huge numbers, if kids, young people, don't come out in huge numbers, it will show we're doomed. If not now, when? There's this big race in Virginia, as you know. This is for the governor of that state. The current governor of that state is term limited out. He's a Democrat. Very popular, by the way. One would think then another Democrat would win. It's not for sure. Virginia is now considered a blue state in national elections. They voted Democrat, I think, the last 2 or 3. Their state legislature, on the other hand, is controlled by Republicans because those are the kinds of little teeny open races that Democrats don't bother with. So you have a state that is essentially now a blue state. But what really matters, frankly, is the legislature. It's Republican. And nobody's sure if the Democrat in this race is going to win. The polls show it tightening. The polls show him with a little lead. Who the hell knows? Let me tell you, if the Democrats lose, if the Democratic candidate loses, it tells you to get ready for 3 more years of Trump and a Congress of Republicans, and it'll show Americans have learned nothing. Let me tell you about some things that if you do bother to vote, first of all, let me say this. I would generally not say you vote a straight Democratic ticket, but these are different times. vote straight Democrat. If there's any way to send a message to these Republicans that what they have done to us is, frankly, unacceptable, then you don't vote for any of them. Do you understand that? How hard would that be? You don't know any of these judges? Vote Democrat, okay? Democrats running for judges tend to be, obviously, more progressive than the Republicans. They don't necessarily believe that punishment is the answer. They might be more progressive in the way they handle their judicial responsibilities. Vote Democrat. Now, there's one, a lot of times you see where they're from. And people around here will say, oh, she's from Pittsburgh. I'm voting for her. Don't do it. In the Superior Court race, for instance, there are 4 really good, highly recommended by the State Bar Association candidates, all Democrats. They aren't from around here. It's okay. It's okay. There is one on the ballot from around here. Mary Murray. Do not vote for Mary Murray. She refused to answer questions from the Bar Association, the only candidate statewide who refused, which tells you something. She is a stealth Republican candidate, but she's the only one from Allegheny County, and she's thinking you'll give her your vote because she's from Allegheny County. Might be your neighbor. She's endorsed by the NRA, by the way. Okay? Also, you will be faced by a ballot question, a referendum. I will read it to you. This will spare you from having to read it while you're standing there voting. Okay? Listen up, because I know you're smart and you'll be able to understand this. And then somebody can translate it to me. You will be asked the following question when you go vote tomorrow. Shall the Pennsylvania Constitution be amended to permit the General Assembly to enact legislation authorizing local taxing authorities to exclude from taxation up to 100% of the assessed value of each homestead property within a local taxing jurisdiction, rather than limit the exclusion to half of the median assessed value of all homestead property, which is the existing law. Now, if you go back and read it again, what that's saying is they want, who wouldn't vote yes if people don't like paying taxes? This says that they're giving Pittsburgh and any other community the right to stop taxing, to stop you doing property taxes. Enact legislation authorizing local taxing authorities to exclude from taxation up to 100% all of the assessed value of each homestead, that would be a house, of each property within the jurisdiction. So they're saying, Pittsburgh could say, all right, we're doing away with the property tax. Geez, well, who the hell wouldn't vote for that? Here's the problem. Those property taxes are funding our schools, our police, our paramedics. There's nothing that replaces the funding source in this. It would create havoc. It's irresponsible. It's short-sighted. It's a way to get, you know what it is? It's a way to get the Republicans out to the polls. They're the ones who don't like any taxes. So, please, if you see that, a no vote, I think, is well advised. And please vote for Dwayne Woodruff for the Supreme Court. Also, the retention of Justice Todd, who is excellent. Excellent. Deborah Todd. Vote yes. And vote for Woodruff because this Monday woman running against him is putting out the most noxious and absolutely repulsive ads about an honorable man, Dwayne Woodruff. Roger writes, let's face it, the problem is men. But not you, Roger. I got a man right here, right off to my right. It's not him either. I work with lots of guys in there. It's not them either. We know who they are. And it doesn't mean how they vote necessarily. I mean, there's plenty of honorable Republican men, okay? But there's a lot of bad guys out there. They're lost, and they're not handling things very well. Did you read the Post-Gazette article about men 20 to 35? Only 70% are in the workforce. Jesus. They're home playing video games. Then they get depressed. They get angry. Then they get guns. Then they get empowered by President Narcissus. Roger says, did you know now is not the time to talk about gun violence? Absolutely. I got it down. That's why I'm not talking about it. And it's raining. What a effing Monday. Why did I get the hell out of bed? How about a positive idea for Pittsburgh unrelated to the downfall of Western civilization? My wife and I were in the Strip District Saturday, and part of Penn Avenue was shut down for road construction. Maybe shut down the same section of Penn Avenue Saturday mornings, just like Clementi Bridge is closed for pirate games. Are you having Bill Peduto on anytime soon? Maybe we could enjoy a car-free morning in the Strip right before the nuclear holocaust. Roger, I want you to take some deep breaths and stop reading the newspaper for a week or so. Come on. You know what? The world will go on if you're not paying attention. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just saying. It's up to all of us to look after ourselves. I was with friends yesterday, and one of them said that Trump is in her dreams a lot. And I thought, oh, my God, that hasn't happened to me yet. Oh, my God, he's in my head. He's ruining my day a lot. But if I were to go to sleep and he's in my bed with me, in my head, I would die. I would die. Ansel says, I agree with your theory about white men feeling hopeless, but it goes deeper. Oh, I'm sure. It's not just being unemployed. It's many things. It's the breakdown of the family unit. It's dysfunctional families. It's not having any support system, no support for their health care, no family support, and it's not having anywhere to go when they feel trapped. But, I was saying, these institutions that used to exist, unions, was a place that could hold people up and make them feel more secure, and we've pretty much done them in. Churches, a lot of people don't do that anymore. Did sometimes do that good work of providing a sense of community. I don't know. And somewhere along the way, writes Ansel, these guys have decided that anger and force is how they're going to get what they want. I don't think they think they're going to get what they want. I think they're really just having a huge tantrum and ripping things apart, because they aren't getting what they want. And it's really, if I can't have it, then either can you. This is reinforced by the constant barrage of violence provided 24/7 on our media outlets and entertainment outlets. Yeah, I agree. I think we're sort of in the end times, guys. I hate to say it. I think this country, if we somehow manage to bounce back from where we are now, I'll eat crow. I will be stunned. Because I know I'm somewhat pessimistic by nature, but man, I think those of you who are still hanging on to optimism are being a little delusional. I think you're in denial because it's so painful. It's so painful what's happening. Oh, God. What else? Mary writes, are we in the God help us all twilight zone? Isn't tomorrow election day? I've seen local suburb commissioners' election sign-ups, but I haven't heard or seen any attention to tomorrow. Please forgive my ignorance, but is that really just it? A few judges? Yeah! But that's important. You got the Supreme Court of this state. You got a state right now that is wholly, almost, except for Wolf, in the hands of the Republicans. And I wouldn't bet that the Republicans won't be governor next time around. So the only possible check on their craziness will be the state Supreme Court. Put Todd back and put Woodruff on. These are important votes as our Superior Court. Man, if you ever end up... school boards, county council, this kind of thing, those are important races. And Democrats don't show up. Which is why Republicans pretty much own the friggin' country now. If you don't get it now, we're doomed. Bob writes, Lynn, I think you should try and occasionally end your show the way you used to at the start of the year. You know, to all the white Trump voters who made President Trump possible, fuck you! Did I do that? Was that what I was doing at the end of the shows? It didn't help. It might have helped me for a bit, but no. I just don't, you see, I'm worn down. We got a call. Hello, caller.
Hi, Lynn. It's Christina calling from the North Hills.
Hi, Christina. I'm fine. Can you hear me?
I'm calling with some exciting news.
Oh, good.
And my family. And then I'm going to plow through to the other stuff. If that's
okay.
All right. So my exciting news and what's really helping me, I think, deal with, the reality of the world right now is I'm going to be a grandmother. My first grandchild is coming in May.
Is that Katie?
No, that's not Kate. It's my son, Michael.
Okay.
And his wife.
Okay.
And we're just thrilled and excited.
Well,
and
of course.
It's nothing like that continuation, just an anticipation of, God, a child and a baby and all of that to just make everything pretty wonderful.
Of course. See, but this is where, right, we get our joy now from, right, our families and our very close orbiting friends. And, yeah, you take solace in that and hope. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. I've not been able to tell people, until we're shorn past things, and it's been wonderful sharing this with the people I work with and friends and everything. So thank you. But the other thing that's been happening, and I'm so glad you're talking about the election tomorrow, is, and again, I kind of took inspiration from you, is do something every day. Go out and do something. And there are a lot of people who have been doing that because of the results of the election in November. And so over the course of this past year, it's been going to marches, it's been showing up regularly and consistently at local events. I live in Ross, so every Wednesday that I can be there, we're standing in front of Rothfuss's office and making noise and having fun and getting attention. And it's been really interesting and great. But what we've also been doing, and I've been doing, is knocking door to door and handing out literature about this election tomorrow. And it's been great, too, because people are receptive to the visits, and I'm calling, using registration lists, so calling on Democrats, but hearing how many people are disturbed by this, how many people live in my community I didn't realize lived here and were Democrats and are upset and are, committing to vote tomorrow, that's big. And there are, as you said, local candidates running at school board level, commissioner level, and certainly all of these judicial seats who are incredible people. And it's been wonderful hearing them, going to hear them speak. I've heard Dwayne Woodruff speak. I've heard an incredible judge down in Beaver County, Debbie Kunzelman, her name. Incredible woman, so interesting. David Spurgeon running. It's been great, and yet it is my fear that, again, people won't go out and vote tomorrow.
That's right.
But please do, because it is so important. And there are others like you who are
Oh, you know what? I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Because the work you're doing is so important, and I wish more of us would do it. The two people you mentioned are two of the judges that people should vote for. Debbie Kunzelman is one of the 4 Democrats I told you about running for Superior Court, and it is important to get these wonderful people in. Mariah McLaughlin, Carolyn Nichols, Jeff Moulton, and Spurgeon for the Court of Common Pleas. I mean, absolutely. These are good people.
But they're also like the school board level in North Allegheny, in Ross, North Hills School District. You go and you show up at these meetings, and these people are just inspirational and fired up. Here in North Hills, we've got Allie Mathis and Sandra Kazera. They're incredible. And they're, parents, concerned, busy lives, but willing to contribute more publicly and in their community. And that's powerful stuff. And I just encourage people, don't always look at the headlines. Go out and see these things. Go out and listen to them. It's been a great year to hear these people willing to commit and what they talk about, and it's been fun.
Good for you.
It's a nice balance. It's a nice balance for, all the ugliness that certainly is happening.
All right.
And I think at the local level we can have some impact.
That's absolutely true. Lynn. Hey, thank you, Granny. Great news.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Christina.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This woman that you just heard, I haven't seen her in a million years, but she homeschooled her children. And I had her daughter Kate on the show, and she was just awesome. I mean, what an awesome child. This is now 25 years ago, maybe 20. And I did a show called The Three Kates, or Three Katies, because there were 2 other Kates I knew, kids. They were all about the same age. They were amazing, these 3 girls. And now they're grown, and they're all doing incredibly well. It was a show that a lot of people remembered, my 3 Katies. And they're all grown up now. Henry writes something that is true. He said, we have quite a few township council and school board seats up for grab, but on the ballot, you can't tell which candidates are Democrats and which are Republicans because they all appear on both ballots. Yeah, I had never encountered that till I came here, that you could do that. You could be on the Republican ballot and the Democratic ballot. What? What? That is crazy. It is crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all, but around here, it's the way you guys do things. And what it does is make the voters unsure of where somebody really stands, right? So if you just say, I'm voting for those Democrats because I don't want these Republicans to think I support anything they're doing, and you end up electing Republicans because they're on the Democratic ballot. That's nuts. Why is it? Have you ever, I mean, those of you who've lived in other states, you ever seen that before? Because I've lived in a few, and I've never seen it. How much sense, I mean, really, think about that. How much sense does that make? You're a Democrat and a Republican? I'm sorry, that's not possible. But here in the great state of Pennsylvania, it's possible. And all it does is muddy the waters, which I guess is another kind of voter suppression, in fact. Oh, dear. I've been asked if I saw Larry David on Saturday Night Live. I did not. I'm not a big SNL fan anymore. I think their heyday was a good 25, 30 years ago. Just my opinion. But because everybody was talking about it on Twitter, I finally steeled myself and looked at it this morning. I'm a Larry David fan. I love his show, kinda. I like the cringe-worthy show. I have get a lot of laughs out of the outrageous things he does. But yeah, he was not funny. He did something that it wasn't funny. Yet, for those of you who didn't hear it, he was saying that he's always hitting on women. You know, he's talking about sexual harassment and all that kind of crap. And he said, man, if I were like a Jew in Poland in this, 1940 something or other, I would have ended up in a concentration camp, he said. And I've often wondered, would I be checking out the women in the camp? And, he says, your pickup lines aren't, how you doing? And it wasn't funny. Women in concentration camps were dying, right? Being tortured. What? It was so not right and so not funny. And I don't know what it shows, except even a genius like Larry David, a genius at a certain level of comedy, can lose track of where the line should be drawn. Yeah, he hurt himself. I mean, he hurt himself with me. He hurt himself with a lot of people, and you could hear the audience was like uncomfortable as well, showing a lot more sense than he. It wasn't good, and it's because it's somebody I generally get a kick out of it. It was particularly depressing. Hey, I'll tell you a story that happened over the weekend that really got my attention because, wow, this could, the Middle East is such a completely together part of the world. And what's going on in Saudi Arabia is scary. It's scary. It's like a wholesale coup. Not by the king. I'm wondering, where's the king? By the king's, one of his sons, the heir apparent. And man, he's arrested like nobody even knows the number, do they? How many people? Including one of the richest men in the world. By the way, the prison that they've all been sent to, all these princes and these gazillionaires, they've been sent to the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh. Because after all, they might be corrupt, treasonous billionaires, but they're used to a certain level of comfort. And so I guess guests who are staying at the fancy schmancy hotel were told to vacate their suites because the prince is under arrest. And then there's this helicopter crash that happens, taking out another prince who just happened to have been the guy who should have been the heir apparent. The crown prince. He was in line to become the crown prince, and then things got, bzzz, and this guy ends up. So this guy who's also a pal of Trump's, and somebody pointed out that people who really know the machinations, nobody could, of Saudi Arabian politics, have said that they've gone full Game of Thrones. And it's true. It's like you don't know who's on what side. They're all related too. These are cousins, second cousins, blah, blah, blah. They're stabbing each other in the back. This is going to be interesting, but destabilizing. And if I can think of one part of the world where you do not need any more destabilization, it would be Saudi Arabia. So, just saying, I know we got so much going on in our own little neck of the woods that you sometimes don't pay attention. By the way, I love it when you know who is out of the country because it's easier to not pay attention to them. And that's what I've been doing. Not paying attention. All right, guys, that's it. I don't know. I'm sorry. Mondays, I bet, if we look back, I bet Mondays are the most depressing shows. Because I bet they are. Because you have the whole weekend of crap to deal with. I mean, a whole friggin' weekend of horror. And, you don't know where to start. You don't know where to start. So, that be it. Stay strong. Be like Christina. Go out, knock on doors, do something. Feel like you're part of something that's making it better instead of just sitting home wringing your hands. That puts you in the same kind of company with the white men who are sitting there playing video games and whining. Become active. And you get every friend of yours you know to the polls tomorrow. Browbeat them, pick them up, drag them if you have to. Only people who are going to vote right. But get them there. It's important. And, of course, the turnout will be Wednesday when we talk about it, will be so depressing. It'll be just another indication that, yes, folks, we are in the end times. This is wait. I guess got to do this for where was it? What did he say? I said for Bob and Braddock. He said I said this at the start of the year to end the show. It just doesn't feel like me now. See, we've all evolved. I've evolved now into a exhausted person, incapable of this kind of passion. But I'll give it a shot. Here we go. And all you white Trump voters who made President Trump possible, fuck you!
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.